Yes, I am.
How do I say your name properly so I get it right?
It's Vijayan.
Vigian.
Vijayan.
Vivian.
Vigian, that's what it is, right?
That's it. You got it right.
Awesome. Anyway, now how does this work? Where I swear last year it was like 3 in the morning for you at this time, wasn't it?
Um, when I was in the UOs as a participant, yeah, it
Yeah.
was 4:30, 4 or
How does it
4:30
end
in
up
the
being
morning.
6:30 now? You guys don't do time changes?
It
Because
was
because our show was at
well,
7, wasn't it?
yeah,
Yeah, so is this meeting.
the competition began at 7 your time, but I woke up an hour earlier, so
That's interesting. Wow, crazy. Anyway, nice to
Oh
have
yeah,
you
he
here.
he had to wake up so he was alive and
Yeah, true.
functional is
just
what
a sec.
was happening.
Let me get my video. I just can't figure that out.
Awesome.
Just a second.
And how you doing, Cliff? Nice to see you.
Yes.
Doing well. Hi, ladies. I've been really, really busy. This December, I think, was like the best month I've had in like 3 years.
Oh, that's wonderful to hear.
Same.
Yeah, it's just been between demos and dealerships and picking up new dealerships and every day. And
Wonderful.
I
Well,
know,
that's
man,
probably because
It's
they're
all that
finding,
promotion you're getting from UVOS, I
yeah,
must
that's it.
say.
I love that artwork is great.
Thank you. It's awesome. It's so fun
So
to play with.
crazy.
They're some great artists. That's one Ellie's artist. His name is Jared. We've been using him for a long time. He's so good. He's so good.
Great
He's
character
A
artist.
nice
awesome.
team.
My daughter will be there one day.
Yeah, aw,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome.
She's
Uh,
getting there.
oh, hi, Jindra. Jindra is our office assistant. Everybody say hi to Jindra. Nice to see you,
Hello,
honey.
Kendra.
Hi, Jindra.
Hi, Jindra.
She's still muted there.
We just had
And
a
so,
meeting
I
with her.
think a lot of the things, Cliff, is because a lot of the dealerships, I don't know for you out there, but our dealerships had no cars in the lots for two
Done.
years. And now all of a sudden they're back. So I'm starting to get my car clients back as well.
Yeah, for 2 years we were working on pre-owned vehicles and service bay.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we still have to advertise the dealership. We got to find out different ways to do it.
Yeah.
And it was really neat because, for the last 1,000 years, car spots, especially tier 3, have always been very, vocal and very animated and stuff. And then when COVID hit us, it all dropped down to this. And the
Oh my
best
God.
way to keep us together is to keep
Uh-oh.
She's selling
Ah, don't
sell the
die.
car
It's
calmly.
all about don't die. Everybody stay calm and don't.
You know what's funny is we watched I think the very first year we had Mary Lynn on there, and it was the first start of the trend where it was less is more, big time less is more in the trend of commercial world. And
Mhm.
so I've been paying attention to make sure that we're focusing the talent in that direction. But I've been really watching the commercials, and it's almost out the window already because
Yeah.
now we're back to a bit
Hey,
more old school. It's a bit more old school, young. So it's young, old school, almost broadcasty.
and
But with
also
an
mock announcer. The mock announcer is coming back. It's so
yeah,
great.
This is what I just did. 2 dealerships, 100 yards apart this weekend. It's the battle of the brands. Gateway Chevy on the north, Chevy Ford on the south, at each dealer. So
we're
it's like a
back.
big competition. They're back. Now, I didn't read it. I was directing it. I had an
Okay.
actual real honest.
Yeah, but you should have done it, Cliff. Oh my God, that sounded
Yeah,
awesome.
it sounded amazing.
Thanks, but my talent is telling people what to do.
Love that.
Well, I'm grateful because broadcasting is my first training other than theater. So I get to go back to my old roots again finally and get to be me.
I love it, and but I love the COVID read, and it opened the doors for women and calmer reads, and it's
And
big.
multiculturalism.
Yeah.
Multiculturalism. Before COVID, our talent, we would have to tell them, if you got an accent, you're going to have to neutralize it, get it more American. Now it's like, oh, you've got a multicultural accent. This is great. Come. So it's
Why
so
I hired
changed.
you.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
changed.
working
It's
with people
beautiful.
like, Carmen Wilson, or
Yeah,
they start
totally,
to get this swag
totally.
going. It's like, yeah, bring it, bring it, bring it.
Exactly.
Because
So
I
we have
guess
Liz on the line and Kim's here. I'm not sure who the phone number is. 937. Say
I
hi so
think
I know who's
that's
calling.
Alexander Graham Bell. I
Oh,
think that's
Alexander Graham Bell. Oh, it's about
Yes.
time. Hey, Kim, how you doing?
I'm good.
Nice to see
Kim's
you.
got work face on.
On the
Did
phone.
I
you
know,
have
right?
work? Were you working all day? She's got all day work
course.
face on.
Of
I know
course.
it.
Yeah, whatever. Now, who's the phone number? You just said hi. Who is that?
Andrea Winslow. How are you?
Hi, Andia. Nice to meet
Andrea.
you. That's
Sorry,
great. Thanks for tuning in.
in transit, so I
course.
can't be on the video.
She's on the vehicle.
Oh, don't worry about it.
Oh, I
As
love
long as
that
we
it's
can hear
got a
you.
phone. Oh, that's awesome.
No problem at all. Hi, Liz. Nice to see you or hear you.
Hey there, yeah. I'm not in transit. I just don't want to be seen.
You're the
Good morning.
Atherton.
And
problem.
hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Liz.
So we will have others joining us today. Just to kind of give you a heads up of why we're meeting today at all is one of the things that we'd really like to share with the talent is what goes on behind scenes when we're looking at auditions. And when there's 1,821 auditions, it's kind of hell.
And it's actually more than that, Deb, because some people did three they did 3 takes that were 3 different auditions. Some people did 19-minute auditions, which is the equivalent of 10 auditions. Like, you know, it's like cuckoo pants where you go, was it really 1,821 or was it with 12,000? And like, it was insane.
Yeah, it was insane. Actually, we literally got movie films this year. And what was really fascinating is here we have a voice acting competition that is actually turning into an acting competition because we've got a lot of people doing stuff on camera. And when we were going through all of your guys's narrowed down choices and we were going through our own and Ellie and I were together at that point in our house. And it was really hard to we focused hard on not actually watching some of the auditions when we were making the final decisions because we didn't want that to impact it or sway us in any way. And so it's really interesting where something's really produced, but if you listen to it without production, if you can get your ears to listen to it without that production, it's just not the same. So it was such a fascinating process to hear the produced versus the not, and how many people actually want to produce visuals. Like there was, like I said, the 19-minute one was a whole film on itself. Then there was another guy who went on location for different things. There was another girl who went on location. I mean, there was just some really creative stuff in there.
Out there stuff, man. Like they had costumes and changes through the thing. Like I was like, wow, oh, who are you, me? Like I was like crazy. I really couldn't take it. I mean, I kind of loved it on so many levels.
Yeah. Hey, Law's here with us as well. Everybody say hi.
Law. Who's the Law?
So what I'm hoping we can do is just talk to each of you. I mean, by all means, chime in anytime, guys, but obviously with a big group of us, it gets a little difficult. What I'm hoping to do is just get some feedback for the talent. You don't have to name names or anything like that, but just like the process, because I think it's, you know, we've got a lot of people devastated that they didn't make the short list. Yeah. And what they don't realize is they might have been really close. They might have been right there, but we had to make a decision between what this one sounded like more like this one. And, you know, so things like that, anything that you feel that would be good input for the talent to understand what goes into the process, especially with you, Kim, you do a lot of casting more than the rest of us, just to get that insight of how, what it takes to be in the decision makers process and what they go through. Hey, Anne, nice to see you. So you guys, we will try to keep this obviously as short as we can. We know you guys have lives and we appreciate you taking some time with us today. Again, we just kind of want to talk about the results and where we got, not necessarily who, but just what the process is to go through. Why don't we start with you, Kim, having the experience that you have. Why don't you kind of introduce yourself to the world for those that don't know you, at least, which most people do, but still, and then tell us about the process that you went through and anything that stood out or anything like that.
So I'm Kim Hurden, and yeah, I'm a casting and voice director for a very long time. Casting in general is hard, right? Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the most difficult part of what I do, because you know you're going to break hearts. And sometimes people are doing too much. And that's what is the not good part, which seems like that should work, because they're kind of trying everything. So sometimes it's doing a little too much. Sometimes, as you said, Deb, it's that maybe we need variety. So someone's really awesome, but oh, this person who's got the same voice type is just a little bit better than they are, or whatever slot we're trying to fill just to make a really good production. So yeah. But I mean, man, overall it was like awesome. Like it's the best thing when it's super hard to make a decision, because that means a lot of them killed it.
I know.
Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
And it makes it
So-
really tough when you guys give us your tops and the votes and stuff. We all liked different auditions. I mean, we had
Exactly.
some in common, of course, but we all liked different auditions, which makes it even more challenging to find a way to make it as fair as possible for everybody. You know, now, did you find it like, I know you've have you done on camera casting as well, Kim?
No, voice
So did
only.
you find that a little bit different in this situation, having the on camera
Well,
stuff?
funny that you say that, Deb, because that's when I'm casting, even still when I'm doing Zoom auditions or whatever it is, live stuff, I don't look at the screen. I don't look at the person. And I prefer the clients not to as well, because it doesn't matter what they look like. It shouldn't matter what they look like. And it does affect your decision making. And so then later on, you'll listen back and go, oh, I thought that person was really good, and they're not as good as I remembered them, because maybe their face is really animated and the performance is just lacking a little bit. So it does make it interesting. And you're right in that, man, it's just, it comes down to a matter of opinion, really, because on our side, we've got, 3 or 4 voice casting people listening to all of the auditions. And sometimes it's like, I'll give them a 1, Craig will give him a 2, Daryl will give him a 3. And I'm like, what the hell? How is that possible? But it's an opinion when it comes down to it. So it's preference, and you never know what's going to hit with some and not with others.
I think a lot of people didn't want to audition because it was on camera, because a lot of people get into voice acting because they don't want to be on camera.
Right.
The reason that we wanted on camera is, number one, it becomes a virtual live show. So you have to be willing to be on camera to be on the show. That's the basic reason.
Yeah.
But what I feel is, one day I had to do an on-camera thing that was voice. And I was watching, because it's been so long since I'd done on camera, and I looked really stupid. Like, I was doing this. It was a narrational. It was more corporate, and I looked so dumb. And I thought, oh, I haven't had to think about how I look when I'm voicing, and we look really stupid when we're voicing. I'm just saying, like, we
Yeah.
just look,
And you kind of should.
You
So
have to. You've got to make the ugly face to
Yeah.
do the character work. You're always a character. And if you've got attitude about like how you feel about something, you're generally going to be, going, like Kim said, what the hell, Daryl? Like, that's generally what is happening. I feel that, gone are the days where we always used to show up at auditions, which I miss immensely. And I feel that the team, the corroboration between emotional, physical expression. Yes, it is just voice, and you can turn away and listen to hear. I don't want to maybe look for a second, but it's in the immediate meeting of the slate, when you go, hey, shut up or whatever, and you're talking as you, that is actually the selling point a lot of times. And I think we miss that now, because it's all self-tapes, it's all on Zoom, it's all removed from, forget about sitting around fires, singing and dancing and sharing fable, which we are governed to do as human beings. And the great thing about kind of like watching somebody go through the machinations of their own creative liberation becomes, on a certain level, something. And Deb's right, like, we'd listen and then we'd not look. Okay, don't look. And then I'd listen and I go, yeah, oh my God, but how do you take out the production? Because that production is helping them. Holy shit, that production makes them sound so fabulous. That music bed that they chose, oh, how great. But then somebody who didn't choose a music bed, you go, now imagine that music bed under that, and you go, yeah, okay. So the work that you guys are talking about, all of you judges, is that we become these masters of profoundly trying to figure out which is the most surprising, spontaneous, on all levels audition. Like, it just becomes insane when the top 2%, there's a 2%, 1.8% that are, Robin Williams and brilliant, spectacular people. Well, then we still need to cover a bunch of people that don't cover the 2%. So guess what? The 98% of the 98%, 60 of the 98% are fabulous.
Yeah.
And the same. And you go, oh shit. So how do you decide, right?
And we wanted to have a worldly competition. We wanted it to be worldly and universal, not just the everyday voice talent that we were used to from the past. So that also goes into play. There's so many things. Now, what do you think, Cliff, being a producer yourself? Please do introduce yourselves, guys, anytime you do speak up, if you haven't yet already. You're a producer. So
Yes,
did
ma'am.
you find it easy then to listen to the auditions without the production in your head?
Actually, I kind of did. I found it easy in the fact that I can completely discount the production because of all of the workshops that we've done. When you go into a workshop and you see somebody get up to the lectern and they start to read, you know they're nervous. You know they're scared to death talking in front of 12 people they don't know, and me, Mr. Intimidation, right, Anne? Hi, Anne, by the way, look at you. I can take that into account, the nerves. So I can discount the nerves that they're displaying the same way I can kind of discount the production. To me, really compelling. What am I drawn to? And I'm kind of an old school guy, and I love improv and I love taking liberties, but I really respect artists that respect the script. So keeping the intro short, get down to business. This is who I am. This is what I do. Here's my spot. Let me read. And then you want to kibitz a little bit afterwards. That's okay. But I think that when somebody is put into this position where they're presenting themselves not only to a single casting director, but to a multitude of people, respecting their time. And I know this is fun, and I know that we love doing this, and it's a big VO party, but we have to have a professional focus. So anytime anybody's presenting themselves in a professional light, please be professional. So those that stuck to the script, yes, sure, characters all over the place. What really stuck out to me are those that I didn't hear the tricks they were trying to do. I don't know if that makes sense. We all have hundreds of tricks we use during voiceover. We don't want to get caught using them. So
it's when they seem purposeful, right? It's when they seem purposeful.
put it in there for a reason. Don't search for the word to emphasize, but wow, holy cow.
I think that's a good point too, because you probably wouldn't prefer the wild and crazy slates that, say, Ellie and I like. And I think you can tell who a lot of our people are because they go wild and crazy. They're swearing and like, okay, they must be one of ours. And so that, I think it's so important that people do hear that, especially when you've got hundreds of talent, in this case, thousands, to have your time. Like, this took us months to go through this talent. Months.
And it's not about wild and crazy.
No.
I just like when you're real. Like, I don't want you to put on a show or do a thing. It's like overselling yourself. It's like, shut up. Like, at that, I get that we're nervous, but it's like, when you used to go into auditions and you go, I shut up. Hi, fuck, what am I doing? Do you have any questions? Yeah, I got that. What is this thing? Is it that? What yeah, okay. Oh, fuck off. Okay, sure. And then you go, right? It's literally that moment where you're you, that if we were still meeting in person, it's like, do you have any questions? And most people are scared shitless. They go, no, I think I'm okay. And they just go. But it's great to know what the hell you might be doing. And that is the moment where you go, zing. Yeah. And I think there's a moment on a slate that you go, it's great when you go, and thank you for the opportunity. This is just so awesome. And they mean it. And the ones that are earnest, and the ones that are, doing a bit of a dance to make you pay attention. That doesn't work because it actually is a turn off.
It's distracting. I don't look at the actors when they were reading. Maybe towards the end, we've all memorized every script in our category. So, when we get to the it's going to be lit part, I kind of look up, and sometimes I'm really shocked. Sometimes I've worked with people for 10 years, have no idea what they look like. I expect everybody to look like Gary Owens with the jet black hair, and they're talking like this. And then I find out they look like Pee Wee Herman, and they've got this giant voice. So, really, what pulls me in, and also here's something that I consider is, and maybe this isn't a good thing, but what is familiar? What's something that I can hold on to and say, yeah, I've heard this voice before. This is a friend. This is somebody that I can relate to. This isn't off-putting or sound so foreign to me. And I don't mean foreign in an accent or in a language, but not really hitting, who they are and what they're speaking about. So, wow, what a spectrum. And I've spoken way too much. So
Oh,
I'm
good.
Keith
No, it's all
Bellman,
great, Cliff. Now, why
and
don't we talk to what we also did this year was we brought in previous winners to come in and help us moderate to narrow down some stuff to, go through stuff. So, Ileana, you were one of our winners last year. Introduce yourself. Was it like for you to go through this experience? Because you're a talent, you're not a coach, you're not a judge. That must have been a little weird to be even asked of it. And same for you, Vish. We'll get to you as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is Iliana Spirakis. Yeah, it was actually a very, very good and fun educational experience for me. Because anytime I'm, I guess, around other actors and everything, it's like if a friend asks me, oh, just to give my input, we're trying to like, oh, just get the better for them to get the better audition or whatever. That's usually where my input is. But in this case, it was so fun because it was not working towards something, it was just listening to everybody's work and the same script exactly. And I found it very, very educational in the sense of that I could really tell that, oh, these actors are standing out, like their voices are standing out there, it's really impacting me, and some others are not so much. Like it after quite a bit, because the task that I had was to put them in the categories of chosen, undecided, and dismissed. I do have to be honest; it was very, very hard for me to put this people in dismissed. So I packed the undecided because I found that
Well, that was
really
you.
hard. It was me. I was packing the undecided. We
It's
did a
hard.
few calls with Alexander and with Ellie, and we were doing it together. So it was really fun when the three of us were on Zoom and all of us had like we were kind of collectively being able to put them in the groups.
Make sure that's
Yeah,
not me, Ellie. It's Ellie.
Ellie
Yeah.
Rods. Ellie Rods. Those are the
No, it's
previous
not.
winners.
No, it's not you, Ellie. It's
Ellie
the
Rods.
winner,
Yeah,
Ellie
Ellie
Ellie Rods
Rods.
winners. That's awesome that you
Rods.
guys did it together. That's really cool. And I'm really glad that you got the educational side of it, because this is actually a lot of what this meeting is about. Is there's more to us making these decisions than people realize, and it's a very daunting process. Now, what about for you, Vish? How was it for you? Oh,
What is he, 4:30 in the morning?
yeah, right.
Yeah,
He's
hi,
6 a.m.
sorry. Can you guys
It's
hear
okay.
me? I was just struggling to unmute myself. Yeah, hi.
How was
I'm
the
Vijay
process?
and I'm from India, and I have been a voiceover artist. And I think for me, what's important is to begin with, to connect with people globally is a fabulous experience for me. I think everything comes next. I remember my school days and my college days. I used to actually struggle to understand what people from another accent used to speak. I would never, I would kind of pay attention to actually understand what Americans would speak, or how fast, or even a British accent. It was difficult. Very honestly, it was difficult. We used to kind of keep track. Okay, come again. I think now it's not about accents. It's about the way we are able to connect with each other, the way we are able to talk to each other. We don't have any limitations, any grudges. We are not judging anyone here as an individual. What I like about is that we are able to accept each other from whatever accents we are, at whatever levels we are. Maybe he or she is a judge, or a contestant, or a moderator. I think these things are more effective for me as a person. They actually make me more happy. When I went through a lot of auditions, I think I honestly, like Debbie, you mentioned you were nervous when you had to be on camera, and you were kind of figuring out, how am I looking on camera, rather than how am I speaking.
Mhm.
So it's more like we have auditions, people giving auditions here in India for TV commercials or for a small OTT series. They're all on camera. People don't even know that they all shoot it from their own mobile phones, and it's strictly mentioned to them, always shoot it horizontal, not vertical, because a lot of them shoot it from their own mobile phones. So yeah, we all learn. In the next audition, we start shooting it horizontally, and then we forget to send our introduction after the audition.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just feel that we'll do a lovely audition, and then it just goes away, and then we get a message saying, "I'm sorry, but we don't have your intro. What's your name? What's your height? What's your weight? Blah 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 blah." In the auditions that I went through in the narration group, like what Cliff mentioned, I totally agree with what Cliff said. Don't make it too long and get down to business as soon as you can. I went through a few auditions which had really excited and quirky introductions, and then it suddenly goes to energy.
With no energy.
So there's no energy. So you're kind of preparing yourself to make a transition from your introduction to the narration, which might be challenging at times, is what I felt. And that kind of probably affects your audition or the performance. I personally believe that go ahead in what you are best at. So you're not experimenting in an audition. That's a dangerous zone.
Mm-hmm. And that's a very interesting point that you made too, where English isn't your first language, so you're listening to a ton of English speaking people. I mean, your English is great. You have such a beautiful accent in your English, but that's a different experience for you than it would be for us.
Absolutely. I think, yeah. I mean, here we have people who, there are so many accents, I can't even tell you. We have people speaking English from South India in a different manner, from North India in a different manner, from the Northeast in a different manner. And it's really difficult. But yeah, I overall, I think in this time and age, I think connection is what all matters. What matters is we're all able to be online and judge, and talk to each other and probably shortlist people, contestants, and you know, give away our own feedback and maybe be of help to whoever can do something good.
I think that's also one of the things that one of the reasons we again put it on camera was because we are normally not on camera, and seeing the experience is so different, and seeing what some people will go through, especially the younger ones. The younger ones did a lot of production, especially on camera, because that's something they're very versed in, whereas other people just went right to it or not. And so it's very interesting. And I think connection is a big key for all of us. We need to feel something from it. There needs to be that connection. Now, Andrea, I know you're on your phone, so you're probably en route somewhere. So I want to get you in here as well. Hopefully you're available right now. Can you unmute yourself, Andrea, and introduce yourself to us? She is probably busy now.
Driving.
She's driving, so we'll try and get back to her. Now, John Wang, I know you have to leave soon. John, you are part of Closing Credits, one of our main platinum sponsors, and you are also a talent and voice director, correct? And you do a lot of voice directing for a lot of. You do multiple language stuff too, don't you, in voice directing, or is it mostly just English? Oh, you're muted, John.
Oh, sorry about that. There you go. Yes, I do a lot of international voiceover. I'm from Calgary, Canada, but I'd say like 90% of my clients are all from Asia or Europe. Right now, I mainly do voice directing, casting, project management kind of work, although I did start on the voice actor side as well.
And what did you feel about the auditions for you? How was your experience for a value for talent?
I actually got really annoyed by the long slates after a while. And it got to the point, just because there's so many, right? And I just want to get through as many as I can. I just started, as soon as I saw a long slate, I just skipped ahead until when they actually started the read. And then I'll start listening to the read. And if I like the read, then, I'll bother listening more to it. But I think for me, it was a lot more about just trying to get through as many as I can,
Hard.
and it just kind of ended up being that way. I There was definitely like a big range, and I remember going through it. I didn't realize I was using you guys' account, so when I was like moving talents around, I didn't realize that, oh, this is like Deb and Ellie's list until afterwards. But I was like, I remember distinctly thinking, man, I really don't like this person, but Ellie really loved this person. So I think I'll just leave it there.
And then that sways your decision too, in a way, right? Because like,
Yeah.
because I remember thinking that, I think it was last year, Cliff, you and JMC didn't love when people were doing a little bit of ad libs, whereas Ellie and I didn't mind it as long as it was done in a tasteful way. So again, we all have such different opinions of what we see. But one thing that I found interesting too is if you watch an audition and you don't like the beginning, you don't know what might happen later on. And so Ellie and I have gone through every single audition from beginning to end, because there are those magic little buttons.
Several times. Oh my
Several
God.
times. Yeah, she did it all on paper. Oh my
Oh my
God. You could see
God.
her
There was
notes.
always,
You've
I
got to see
feel
my
like,
notes. It's a book of notes. It's insane.
I feel like I've listened mainly for the character script stuff, but there was like key points where a lot of people would always throw in something interesting at those points. So when I don't hear anything interesting for a while, I see if they do anything in those specific points. And to me, if you don't do anything, it's like, okay, you did something where you missed an opportunity to do something there. And that was how I started. What do you say? That was how I started judging who I liked more versus who I didn't like as much. Were they able to come up with something given such a strong direction on the script itself based on what they were saying? And there was a few people where they threw in something like, it would come in really randomly, but in a very good way. And those ones are the ones that I think I love the most, because it gave me something unexpected and it still worked. Whereas the people who gave me something that I expected and still worked, then it's like, okay, there's a lot of people that manage to do that. The script is essentially screaming at you to do something there, and you did something there. But it's those off moments when people did something very unique and it's true to the character they were portraying that I think I really fell in love with what their performance had.
And I think that's a really valid point. When we hear the same script read over and over and over again, especially for me in the commercial area on this one, they were just supposed to be themselves. We would have hundreds that sounded good. They sounded good, but they all sounded the same. So how do you pick from hundreds of the same? And so those ones that did that little something that just brought it to life a little bit more were ones, and that's where I think the talent will get confused. It's like, well, okay, but you don't want me ad-libbing. Well, what's a little extra? So it's learning those little personality traits, which we'll go back to what Vish was saying.
Okay.
You know, you've got to connect. There's got to be a real connection to what you're doing that makes it stand out.
And as writers of the scripts, we write in your personality. So if you miss personality where we didn't write the personality, that shows us that you're only playing personality because it's written in there for you. You don't do half of the commercial without personality and then it goes, is that a unicorn? Or like, no matter what the script is, that's to indicate that the character is funny. The character has a sense of humor. If you don't bring in the sense of humor or a sense of dry rye or an attitude of some kind, you've missed it. You don't rely only on the writer where they give you the personality. Your personality has to be there from the beginning.
And that's like the slates that would come through that were really fun and crazy, and then all of a sudden, deadpan voiceover. It's like, oh, I really wish some more of that slate personality was coming in on this. That would help. Now, Anne, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your experience with the whole UVOS? Thank you. Welcome back.
Thank you. Anne Ganguza, coach, demo producer, talent. I found, well, first of all, I thought being on camera, I wasn't sure that was do they have to be
it wasn't, they didn't have to, they wouldn't lose points for not doing it, but it was a request from us that we would prefer it.
So, okay, so I was confused because some people I saw in the notes discarded them because they weren't, or said they weren't on video. So therefore they dismissed them. So then I thought, well, that doesn't seem right. So that was just my little, I wasn't sure about that. I thought that the video for narration, because that was the category I judged. And the people who played to the camera, I immediately dismissed, because that's not going to get you anywhere when you're doing a long format narration. So I dismissed them from playing to the camera. But I mostly tried to listen, and for me, because I coach a lot of narration and very conversational narration or engaging narration, I was really listening for that connection. And I am not a big fan of improv, unless it's improv that can be edited out, because in real world, right, you're only going to be giving us that script and nothing else. But if that improv helped you to get to a place where you delivered the script better, and you gave me just a little beat before you went into the actual script, I was okay with that. But in that narration at the very end, where there's a list, a lot of people did a ton of additional dialogue, which I thought was okay until it got to the point where the improv was better than the list.
Yeah.
And then it became like, well, I'm not going to be swayed by that, because normally I can't accept the improv.
Especially in narration, right?
Especially in narration, you cannot really go anywhere, beyond what's on the narration script. You can't even do contractions. You have to read it as it is. And so the people that were able to be engaging and natural and authentic while remaining to the script, I gave them more credit for that. And so I think it was a lot, but I can't imagine other categories, because this was probably the smallest category. The interface, I will say, I was confused. I wasn't sure if I had finished all of them, because all of a sudden, I saw people on the finalist list, and I'm like, I don't remember that person. I had the smallest list, it was 385, I thought, when I used to filter it, a narration. And so I kept trying to go to the next page, and it kept giving me the same people back again. And so I felt horrible, because I knew the two of you were going through all of them, because I saw your notes. And I was like, oh my God, I'm writing notes, and I know how much work that is. And so I felt bad, because I thought maybe I didn't finish. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Judging everyone.
It's hard.
And so when it came time to give you my 10, I gave you the 10, and I thought I did them all. I hope I did. Maybe
I did 300 extra, because I had to go over, because I didn't do notes for everything. And then I went, have I done? I don't know if I've done this person. I got crazy. It was a nightmare. Yeah.
I went back and added, and I liked how you put your name,
I started doing that so that I knew that I'd been there.
Mm-hmm. Me too. And then I also knew that somebody else had visited it. And then I wasn't sure who else was who else was judging with me. But I did find that I was reading some comments. I'm like, why didn't they like that? I like that. So that was a little bit interesting.
Found that a lot.
But again, I do a lot of the corporate narration, and I kind of figured that you guys, in the slates, you'd like it to be more improv and a little more crazy, a little more, animated. But I myself, based on the script, right, and based on the specs of the script, I liked it more animated myself, rather than a typical corporate read. So I did judge it based on that, but maybe not as again, you might have accepted more improv than I did.
Well, I agree with you on the narration part, though.
Yeah.
Narration isn't the best place for improv, but
Right.
I think the most important thing for talent to hear is it's if you don't honor the script, and especially when you add your own dialogue and still don't do the script, that's when we're all out. We're all out at that point. It's great that you can improv. That's great. But the client is going to be, or the writer could be in the room and be very hurt and pissed off that you aren't honoring what's wrong with what I wrote. And it's funny how people can't just look at what's there and go, I can make that work. Because really in our world, we can make any word work. That's the whole point of what we do, right?
And the wonderful thing is there was a lot of similarities, no matter what stylistically people feel or what they're drawn to or whatever. It was interesting to me, of the top tens of people, the crossovers, the number of crossovers were, it was exciting to me, because we're vastly different jurors, right? Vastly different. And this is more show oriented in a weird way. Yes, it's voiceover. Yes, it is. but it's also geared toward thus the video and thus all that, a different elemental that is already in a heightened place. So it already isn't the kind of thing that would ever be behind a microphone in reality, if that makes sense. So it's a very weird thing to jury. Because you go, well, that's insane, and I don't know what that is. But for a show, it's good.
I wanted you to make the script harder, because you made the script almost conversational, and usually
I didn't do that script.
I'm just saying, usually narration is a little more formally written, and I thought, well, they kind of got it easy because it's easy to improv on that. And so as much as I enjoyed listening to the improv, I was not impressed if the improv was better than the actual script. You know what I mean? And that was sometimes hard to separate.
I think the goal with making the narration this first round of narration was to keep them conversational, because most people are going to go to a corporate read.
Right.
And so now as we progress, we're going to have a little bit more.
Make it hard.
Oh, you should see the medical narration thing that I got.
Oh yeah, that's phenomenal. I think that will be great, because that will really showcase the skill set, because I'm really used to listening to people. I'm very much trying to get people out of the corporate read and into a very engaged, authentic, genuine, engaging sort of performance.
Together, right? And I think another thing that probably most people don't realize is that even the talent, we need one overall in the end. So everybody that's submitting, as much as they might have been wonderful in that one category, we can tell that this might not be a good category for them if we put them in animation, or we put them in gaming, let's say, for narration across. So it had to be people, we had to choose people that we thought could win the whole show. They have to be able to do, and that is the interesting caveat in this, is that this is going to be the best overall, not the best, but a more well-rounded performer who can take on many genres. And most of us coaches will pursue you and say, hey, choose one genre at a time. Don't be the jack of all trades. Absolutely not. And we still support that. But this is just a different entertainment purpose, like what Ellie was just saying, that we're trying to show something different, right? Awesome. Thank you. Now, Liz, how about you? Introduce yourself. Tell us about your experience so far. You know, I know we've had you a couple times now, thank goodness.
Oh, you're super nice. And I have to apologize. Last year, I listened to thousands of these auditions. This year, regrettably, I was down with COVID. I mean, not just down, I was
down.
It was not a pleasant experience, and I'm just now getting back to my life again. That said, I can and I don't want any sympathy or all that shit. I was just saying that I can only talk to you from my experience of last year, listening to all of those things. And I'm gonna kind of agree with a couple people there. When I'm listening to auditions and on whether we're casting a project or any of that, I'm real into whoever's really kind of fitting the specs and following the script and doing what they're doing. Last year, when there was one slate, and I talk about it, and I don't ever use names, but it was 2.5 minutes. And a 2.5 minute slate, I had to listen to it because it was 2.5 minutes.
I remember.
Just like I now know when that person was having babies, what they were doing. And I'm just like, good Lord of mercy. You know, you don't even do that at a table read, much less.
Well, I think that's a lot of the reasons that at least in the non-union world, they're getting rid of slates, period, because it's just taking too much time for a lot of people.
Well, it's funny you say that, because back in the 90s when I was agenting, you know, I think I'm a grab claim for it was like, don't slate unless they ask you to. And people were like, you're telling me not to slate. And I said, yeah, I'm telling you not to slate. And, you know, it was kind of a new thing, and now people go back and forth about, do we slate or do we not slate?
I think it's a union thing, isn't it?
No,
I slate for all of my auditions, and I always go, why am
my auditions in automotive, I do not have the talents, because I don't want the dealership or the production company to go around me and call up
That's what I was going to say.
Protection.
That's why it started.
Reader number 1, reader number 2, reader number 3. Pick one. We'll get up.
Now, Kim,
that's interesting.
Pay to plays. That's why it started on, because pay to plays don't want you to slate because they don't want it exact same reason. So that's why it started.
So are you finding,
I
Kim,
love slates.
Yeah, are you finding, Kim, that still in the union, everybody's still slating, right? Union guys were still in the slate.
Yeah, I slate
to
everything.
Me, and it's because now it's just a little file you're sending. mislabeling that is very easy to do. So I always tell people to slate off the top. Like it's
had
just,
that
Yeah,
happen.
I mean,
You had that with us where I was like, what's their name?
don't
We
know who they
can't
are.
find their name. It was
Yeah.
a nightmare.
And that was also something we looked at is, did they follow the directions? It doesn't matter with anybody agreed with our directions. I think it's so important for talent to realize you bypass everything because you're so focused on the script that you're not paying attention, like what you were saying, Anne. You look for someone who is paying attention, and you, Liz, that is paying attention to the specs, looking at it. But then there's the flip side is where they all sound the same. So there's this cross-pollination of this, but it's so important that you read the directions. And we did that on purpose because I had hosted a cruise once, and I had done a voice competition, and everybody sent me their names and called it voiceolympics.mp3. And at that time, this is way before, like, I mean, internet was around, but it was pretty new still and not organized. And so I download all these things into my iTunes. I didn't know who anybody was, and I'm not going through 100 or 200 auditions to go figure out who you were. So I just deleted you. And if you didn't slate, I have no way of knowing who you are. So that's why I started slating to make sure. And I also know people get cast off their slate. They didn't love their audition, but they love their slate. So I maintain it in the non-union world. However, I also respect the time of the decision makers. That time is so valuable. And again, if they could have the process, a lot of you went through one category, maybe two categories, 300 or so talent. We're going through 1,821. It takes months. And so we made the time, all volunteer, we made the time, but clients don't want to make that time. That's daunting for them. So it's so important talent hear what's good about a slate, but also what's not working about slates and why people are doing away with them.
Well, and I've got to tell you, during the Emmys, like Kim, you do too. And I mean, you do sit through a hell of a lot at the first round, the very first, like it's a lot, and you have to listen to the whole thing, and they're half hours, some of them. It's like, oh my God, when you're doing best actor and stuff like that in a mini series, oh my God, kill me now. You just want to die because you know within the first literal minute, no, but you have to. So I just let it play and cook and do while it's going because I already know, but you have. And this is the thing when you volunteer to kind of support the industry. And I mean, people in the industry, because they have gone to great efforts to do. And, you know, this is what I love about people who try and submit themselves. They don't know they're doing bad or making a mistake or fucking up. In fact, the 19-minute audition is like, what were you thinking? And it's like, I wanted to give you more. And it's like, it's not coming from a bad place, but it's like you're taking away from everybody else. Think about it that way. And it's like, but that's all my intention, right? And it's sort of like, it's so difficult because people think by embellishing, by doing more, by going oink, 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 wee, oh, look at me, that they're going to somehow please you more. And gang, you please us by just doing the job at hand. That's the job at hand. You don't have to go whack-a-doodle-do for 15 minutes.
I think everybody's trying to be you, Ellie. They think that that's just the way to do it. Like, I'll just go whack-a-doodle. But here, I think that's actually, as much as I'm being funny, it's a valid point because I notice this working with Ellie a lot. I notice a lot of people try to do what Ellie does. But the problem with that is Ellie, and that's why it works. I'm not Ellie. I have to do what Deb does versus what Ellie does. And so that's what I find very interesting when you're giving people permission slips to play, to let go, to be themselves. What they're not realizing is themselves we actually want, not yourself mimicking someone else that you think is doing really well. And you have to find where your niche is and what your personality is. And again, I think we all agree, it's their personality. It's the personality they're bringing to the character, to the script of their own, or their experiences that really set us apart.
And guys, I am me as me. I guess I'm a huge crazy character as myself. But when I audition for things that are really straight and real and in the oinky place, I could say, which I do all the time, which is very, normal, natural, professional speaking. I'm not me. I'm not the wild, outrageous, fun, ridiculous.
Well, you're just different layers of you, don't you think, Ellie? You're just different layers of you. There's a serious side to you.
I get it. That's not what they want. Like, that's not what they're looking for.
And speaking from someone that has heard a lot of Ellie auditions, sometimes I'm like, oh, for God, stop it. Right? Like
I
sometimes
bet.
it's just like, oh, Ellie, stop it.
Guaranteed.
Right? Even for, and I know her and she's awesome, but even her sometimes I'm like,
It's too much. Well, try getting her to do a visual for you. It's like, okay, Ellie, we have to cut back somewhere. We can't have everything. It can't have the whole kitchen sink.
You know, and then you go, oh, that was too much. Oh, and I'll say to my agent, oh yeah, I kind of lost it. I don't know what happened. Just send it anyway. And you think, oh, you're going to offend people, or that's going to be terrible. And that's when you book it and you go, I know nothing. I don't know how it works. I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know.
It's a hit or miss, but again, I think the true core is finding the
But
real
be
you.
a professional. Somebody said it earlier. Be the professional.
Yeah, I respect people's time. Now, James, it's so nice to welcome you to the team. Hi, how you doing? Why don't you introduce yourself? Oh, you're muted. Try again. Mulligan. You are a sound engineer, right? You're still muted. Oh, there we go.
I didn't have my picture up, so I couldn't see if I was muted. James Allberger. I'm the author of The Art of Voice Acting. I've been coaching, directing, working with voice talent, going back to the early 1970s when I worked at a recording studio in Hollywood, working with a lot of A-class talent back then.
You're like 11 Emmys or something like that?
11 Emmys, yes, for sound design, audio production, and post-production for film and video. That's my main staple. That's mostly what I do. But voiceover is a huge part of that, and directing talent's a big part of it as well. So
I know we kind of brought you in a little late in the game, so you wouldn't have had a chance to go through all the auditions and do the submissions in the same way. But I'm sure you can attest to everything we're discussing about casting and going through auditions. And
yeah, well, what's interesting is I'm hearing some of you talking about, long, 2-minute slates and, all these things. And back at, most of you may recall that my former partner, Penny Abshire, and I produced the 5 voice conventions, which kind of launched, a slew of other conventions, but we were the first. And in our Voice 2012 convention, we did a commercial to promote the convention and did a contest. And we had 225 auditions come in for that. We had very specific instructions, like what you, Deb, and you and Ellie have done. And we had, of those 225 auditions, there were only 25 that actually followed the instructions. 200 of them had one or more of 50 different mistakes or problems with their submission. So, with what you folks are saying, I'm just sitting here thinking, oh yeah, I remember that. I remember that. I remember the fully produced audition that came in when all we wanted was a dry voice. Remember the auditions that had a slate that was longer than the audition. All of those things happen. And there was like, okay, delete.
and that's the key, is all of a sudden you might have had a great audition, but you didn't follow all the directions. And when you have 30 really great talent you're trying to choose from, in this case, hundreds,
yes,
you just start deleting based on that kind of criteria.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's crazy.
There's really no choice. So you have no other options.
And I think that's really important, again, for the talent to hear, is everything does become a comparison. So, we get our overall first feel of everything. And then it's like, okay, well, this one sounds like this one, but this one did this one differently. And this one did this one differently. Oh, we can't have both. They both sound the same. So which one do you choose? And we tried very hard to make it as fair as possible with multiple judging. So we would take everybody's scoring or top 10s, whichever they would have given us. And then we'd see which one's common. Which one are common? Even though Ellie and I both had our favorites of who we really wanted to make the show, all of a sudden, because they weren't in common with anybody else, we started narrowing that out that way too, because it's important that it's a neutral decision, not just one person. And I think Kim, especially, and I'm sure a lot of you've been there with the decision makers when they're trying to iron that out and go, okay, but this one does this one. And eventually you just have to go, okay, this one reminds me of my ex, okay, gone. This one, I just don't like the way this happened, right? You have to find a way to cut. And that's not easy.
Well, and what happens is when you literally get cross-eyed because you can't hear anymore.
Yeah, it's like
There's
buying
a
10,000
commonality that when you're like literally 2,000, I listen to. I at a certain point, you just go, I can't hear anything it all,
Absorb it.
I'm getting crazy and crunchy. I just need to go. And that is when the individuation would go zip.
Well,
Yeah.
then, you know what, I'm going to speak to that because when we do it at our company, it's pretty typical to have 300 or 400 per role. So that's very normal to me. But we have someone start at the top, someone start at the bottom, and someone start in the middle of the list so that everybody is getting a fair shake. And we don't look at each other's opinions. That's blocked until we do a culmination at the end, and then we can see what everyone else, because it starts, as you guys are saying, it starts to affect you. You're like, oh, Ellie liked that guy. Well, maybe I should listen again. No, just your opinion. That's all we care about.
That
So
was one
maybe
reason
that's
I
something
didn't
to
put
keep in
my
mind.
name
I
on it
didn't agree with a
initially.
lot of people.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
why I didn't put my name initially on the comments, because I didn't want to sway anybody's opinion. So they won't
Right.
know who said it. And I thought that would be easier. But then after a while, it's like, okay, now we got to start narrowing it down though. Now I need to know, okay, now this is going to help us, because at that point, it's almost like a second passing for us at this particular
I
point.
just loved when I went, oh my God, she loved her. She loved him too. Oh,
Yeah,
she loved her too. Oh, good. Okay.
When Ellen Dubin gave us her gaming list, both Ellie and I had almost like out
It's
of the
almost the
15 she
same. So it
chose,
was
we had
like,
10 of them the same. It was like, yay, we have a winner. We can finally pick one that's easy. But it's not easy. And again, I just can't iterate enough to the talent. You might have done a stellar audition. It might have been stellar,
by
but you
itself
still
with
didn't
no
make
one
the cut
else.
for many, many, many different reasons. And I think that's the most important value. And I was fortunate, I was casting in the beginning of my career, so I got to see the behind scenes, and I always felt that that made me a better talent. So I got to be in the place of the decision maker, so I could know what it's like to have someone go off your script and not honor it, or know someone who's taken up too much of your time, or realize what it's like to go through that many auditions. And like, it is headache time going through so much in such a short period of time, especially. And I love what you're saying there, Kim, because I also wanted to suggest that, when you start, it reminds me of The Voice. On The Voice, the people that come last and the very last audition cuts, they have it. It sucks for them. There's only one judge that has a spot left. So you might have been better than 3/4 of the people that got through, in fact, but you still got cut because it happens to be at the end when they're saturated. And we do see, I'm sure many of you will attest to this, is we do see a lot of the industry changing into first come, first serve right now. Whoever gets in quickest is getting in, and that sucks, because that doesn't mean it's the best talent for the job. None of us want that. But when the industry is growing enormously the way it is, all of a sudden there's too many almost to go through, and you do need a team to do that.
I just
Awesome.
want to come in here and just
Yes, John, you
say
have to
that
leave.
I have to run here.
Of
I have
course.
another class coming up real soon.
Of course, John.
It was
Thanks for
great to
joining
see
us.
everyone, and I look forward to working with you all.
Awesome. We'll
Take
see
care.
John on the
hey, thanks,
finale.
John.
Awesome. Well, listen, guys, I know we've taken a lot of your time. Law is just listening in tonight, so thanks for joining us as well, Law. There's several other judges, but we really appreciate all of you coming in and taking the time to kind of just give some insight. We want the talent to hear what goes through this process so they don't feel so bad about their audition. You won't know. Ellie and I did last year, and we will do again this year, a workshop where we will give you feedback on those auditions, and any of you are welcome to join us on that if you care to. But I think it's so important for talent to get feedback, and we don't get it. We get to see the look on your face, we get to see that, but we only get to gauge it on whether we got cast or not. And so it's nice to get that little bit of behind scenes to know other insight into it as to why you might not have gotten chosen.
And guys, it's always great to just give your creative heart to your work and walk away from it. For example, Luke Gordon, who was a semifinalist, who was picked, hadn't responded. I reached out to him today and said, dude, you got in, where's your shit? We need your picture and blah, blah, blah. He was going to his father's funeral. He didn't even know.
Oh, wow.
He didn't even know. That's how much he cares about social media, about doing the thing, about checking his emails, about, what is it, January 4th, and it was announced on the 1st. He didn't even know. And so it didn't matter to him. Like he was over the moon excited on the way to his father's funeral. But that is just an example of
the industry.
You can know or you cannot know. Live in the beauty of, I did a fabulous job.
And I
I
think
did
that's
the
a really
best that I
important
could
factor,
do.
Ellie, because a lot of people, especially beginners, they put so much effort into that audition and they're just hanging on to the results of that audition. Whereas the rest of us have been doing this forever. No, you forget that audition the second you've done it. It's on to the next one now and move on. You're not living in, okay, but when I get that, and positive thinking is great. We're all about positive thinking. You should be positive. But if you can move on, then you're not living in the moment of, because you're almost looking for, am I a success? Am I a failure? Well, no, it's not us to decide that. And just because a client chooses you doesn't mean you were the best person for the job. It means you were their best person for the job. It doesn't mean you did anything right. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. So just getting it isn't even the right gauge, other than paying our bills, obviously, which we need. Anyway, anybody have any last things to say? We're going to wrap you guys up. I know we've taken up enough of your value time. Go ahead, Vish, for sure.
I just want to say one thing is what I felt a few years ago as a contestant is that a lot of times we are insecure whether we get chosen or not. Is our audition good or bad? Maybe he or she knows that they have a good voice, they can perform, but should I add a little extra to make it nicer? Maybe it won't help. You don't know whether you're enhancing your audition or you're actually killing it by making a long slate or making a very quirky or really excited slate and then suddenly switching to another category. But like Ellie said, we all want to know what the person is. We want to know more about the personality. It is also a balance between, okay, you have done a quirky slate and then you have a lot of instructions to follow. So they're always on nerves. Have I done the right job? Have I given the right audition? Have I followed all the rules of the audition? No, I mean, if there is a requirement, don't go beyond 10 seconds with your slate, period. Or don't go beyond 15 or 20 seconds. Maybe it might help. So you're kind of limiting the candidate. Okay, I know I have 20 seconds to slate. I better rush off to the main read. Mm-hmm. So that could be a point where you actually can mention that you would disqualify the audition if the slate goes beyond 20 seconds or, well, we might give a 5-second.
I just like to add to what you're saying as well. Is I feel that UVOS becomes a very educational platform. And if you are curious about where your auditions sat, how it was, watch the auditions, go through the experience we went through, because you will learn what is working, what isn't, and then try to do a neutral comparison to the ones we chose, and then think of, why did we choose them? Why do you think we chose them? Why wouldn't we have chosen this one, which was just as good? What was different about that? And try and use that as an educational platform, because that's the one thing we did this for, was that it was educational, because there's almost nowhere you get to watch and listen to everybody's auditions. There's almost nowhere out there. So you don't get to hear, and I think that's why a lot of pros don't want to do it. They don't want people stealing from their tricks and their techniques and stuff. And I understand that as well. But for me, going through the first season, I was like, wow, I'm learning actually a shitload of stuff here. I'm learning from people making mistakes. I'm learning from people succeeding. And so I feel that because these videos will be there forever on this particular season, watch them, take the time to watch them and figure out what we are thinking. Use this as a platform to get an idea into our heads. I know we talked a lot about slates, but there's so much more beyond that. But listen to the commonalities between all the judges of what we liked and what we didn't, Anybody else? Anyone to leave any last words before Ellie? Of course, Anne, go ahead.
I just have a question about the next round. Yes. I don't know what happens in the next round because I haven't done
so
it before.
You come in on the so what we do is we've added another episode, just so you guys know, because we did a free audition for the Halloween Howl, and it was so good. The audition ended up being so good that these talents showcased 9 or 10 characters in a very short amount of time, and some of them produced it, some of them didn't, and so we couldn't decide on one. So we've added an extra episode. Out of that one, anybody wants to join us for that one, you're welcome to come and judge it, but it's just Ellie and I listening to that one. We're going to narrow down one from that one on January 25th, and then we're going to put them on one of the 3 shows. So the 3 live virtuals. Go ahead, Ellie. Sorry,
I just wanted to say the thing about the Halloween Howl it was promo, commercial, hosting, DJing, character, gaming. It was every genre. And what I realized, I wrote it, what a nightmare. And it was, they had to do so many genres back to back. People did it in one take. And it's astounding to watch people switch genres from old school announcer to DJ to storyteller to character to like commercial. Like it was impossible. Like it was like, this is better than all the other categories. The people in this category blow all the single categories out of the water.
And then we had the problem of
animation out of the water.
We had the problem of it was produced. We asked them to produce it because we wanted to just kind of use it as a promo. But the problem with that was we had people do it in one take without production. And then we had people do it with production. Okay, well, who do we decide on? Oh my
and then
God.
we had people do it with production using their mouth, where they didn't use real production. They used howls for Halloween and like, oh my God.
So we want to test them out in a live environment without production to see, and then we're going to narrow that down. Now, February 1st becomes the commercial promo episode. So Cliff and JMC and Eric Shepard will be joining us for that one. That we will have a rehearsal, and so you'll have a much better gauge of what's going on the Monday before. We have a generic rehearsal for everybody January 16th. We'd like everybody to join us if you can. We will put all this information out to you. Jindra will send you information on that, guys. If you can't make that, it'll all be videoed, so you'll get to see that. What we do want to check out on the 16th, though, which takes a bit of time, is we want to immerse you into the Zoom room. So that means your background would disappear. So we need to test out your camera. We need to test out your audio and stuff like that to make sure we have some good stuff, and then explain how it's all going to work. And then on the Monday before each of your shows, some of you are just on the live grand finale, which will be in person. Our rehearsal then is at 1 o'clock at VO Atlanta. We'd like everybody there as much as possible for that one. And again, all this will be sent to you guys in email, so you'll have a good idea of when to expect these things. Monday before your show, your virtual shows, that's when we do a rehearsal. We'll have 1 hour just set aside for rehearsal so we can go through the gamut. You can see everything that's happening that way. So for your particular show, and it's February 8th, so the Monday before that Wednesday, we will have a rehearsal at 7 o'clock. Hopefully you can make that. All rehearsals are recorded, so you can see that, but we do want to test out camera and working within the room and all that stuff. It's not a difficult process, really. The hardest part was running OBS, which I don't have to do anymore. So now it's going to look good, which is wonderful. We're very happy about that. So it's just a matter of listening, giving your feedback. But one of the things that was a little bit difficult is the judging system, how to give us your notes without everybody else seeing it and stuff like that. So we'll have something set up in place for that, which we'll explain more thoroughly in email. It was a nightmare last year, Kim. I know, I can tell by her smile. She's like, yeah, it fucking sucked. I get it. It did. It really did. So what I recommend, no matter what, because technology does happen, is just be keeping some verbal notes for yourself or written notes aside. We will also have the script for you so you can follow along. I recommend a couple devices so you can follow along the script on one. We will try and have it on the Zoom room as well. You'll see it, but we want to see the talent faces more than we want to see that script. So we are focusing on different camera angles and all sorts of stuff there. So I recommend everybody has another device that just has the script on it, or print out the script of your categories, and you'll get that in the next week or two. About a week or so, within between 2 weeks and 1 week before the episode, that's when the scripts will be released, and I'll get you guys that copy as well. Jinder will send you an email with all this information. We will give you all the judging information in email, so you will have a very organized database of that. If not, it's too much. I know I write too much. I try hard not to. Jinder will help keep me in bullet point form instead. But I don't write as much as Ellie. I'm just saying I'm better than that. I can narrow down quicker. Anyway,
hey, I just finished all the scripts. They're all done.
No, I know. And I have to narrow them down so they actually fit in a minute. Just saying. Anyway, so we will get you more factual information that way. Then after that show is over, what I'd like to do in this particular season is we're going to stay, the judges, if you could stay on, we're going to deliberate, talk about who your one choice is. One choice, that's it. And then we'll announce probably the next day after each show who won that particular round, and that's the person we're flying to Atlanta. We need to have that decision right away because we have to buy their flights. So we have to have a solid decision by the next day after each episode. So episode February 1st, we will know February 2nd who the winner of that show is. Yeah, no, we're going.
So our rehearsal for
Not that hard. It's only 12 people.
be on the 30th.
What's that?
The rehearsal for the February 1st show will be on the 30th.
Yes, exactly.
And what time will that be?
That will be at 7, again, the same time frame. So 7 p.m. Eastern will be the rehearsals, and there will just be a 1 hour. We'll try to keep it as early because I know some of you are different. Way
And
different
they're on
times
the
and stuff.
calendar.
Okay, so we'll send you all that information so you'll have that. Just so you have an idea what happens after that. We pick one winner from each episode, then we fly them to Atlanta. Those 3, Ellie wants to make it 4, so we'll see. Those 3 will, she's always changing the rules. Those 3 will compete live at Atlanta between 8 and 10 p.m. on the Atlanta stage on the 23rd of March. So I know a lot of you here will be at the finale. We'd like you to be there. And then we will listen to their auditions, and we will decide at the end of that which one of those 3/4 will be the grand prize winner of all categories.
And so, are we judging that too, or is it just the people that you've slated?
Well, we have you in, Anne, as the finale as well, because you're going to be there. So anybody that's already going to be at Atlanta, we'd love to have you join us. If you can't, just let us know so we can make the right arrangements for the stage setting, though. We do need to know that ahead of time. So if those of you that are doing the grand finale, that rehearsal, as I said, will be 1 o'clock on the 23rd. So we will do a full run through on the 23rd. And we've got a lot of stuff going on because Mr. Mike, unfortunately, is going to be joining us live. So he's going to be joining us via IPDTL, which is going to be a bit nightmarish for us. And then there'll be live streaming as well. So all these shows will be live streamed, but we will also be doing something a little different this year than we have in the past, which is we will do a post-production. So all these shows, as much as they're going to be live, we're going to do some really nice post-production at the end of it and get a lot better visuals. We have animators on board this year that are going to do little animations for some of the scripts. We have some, they're going to dub, and we're going to play around with that stuff. So there's some really cool stuff in store that way. Okay.
And 2 cameras filming the whole thing.
What's that?
2 cameras.
Yes, we're going to have 2 cameras filming the whole thing live as well, so we can do some cutaways and stuff like that. So it's going to be exciting and intense all the same time. Now, the crazy thing about the finale, for those of you that are doing the finale, is we've got VO Atlanta's opening at 7. I think it's at 6 to 7 or 7:30, and then we have to strike their stage and add our stage right away. So there's going to be a little bit of a lull, but we don't want to lose everybody. So we're going to try and do that as a quick a way possible. So we're going in the day before to try and set that up.
And just an FYI, there is a stage manager named Michelle Jelly who will be there, who will be contacting all of you and facilitating, if you're available, for the walkthrough, for everything, who will have assistants who are runners, who are getting you backstage right and left to enter, to get onto the stage, to get off the stage, yada, yada, yada. It's a bit of a nightmare, but she's a huge AD on film, and she's done hundreds of big theatrical productions, so she'll be very helpful, and we're excited.
And also, what we'd like to do on the grand finale, for those of you that are there, is do some interviews after the show. So after the show's over, if you could stick around, please, because we want to. First of all, we got to make a decision. Then we got to announce it live on the show. Then afterwards, we'd just like to do some cutaway stuff. So just a little bit of interview time with each of you would be great. We'd really appreciate that.
And you'll give us wine.
Of course.
So much wine. I've already told every single person that's going to VO Atlanta that Kim Herden likes Pinot Grigio.
Listen, I think Ellie, we should do a case of wine with our logo on it.
There you go.
That might be a good way to go. Okay. Anyway, thank you guys so much for taking the time out for us and for volunteering for this monster of a project. We know you're all busy. You don't need to be volunteering. You're all giving back just like we are, and we just can't thank you enough for that from the bottom of our hearts. And thank you to our moderators. Give them a hand. Good job. Congratulations on last year's guys.
Thank you, gang. We couldn't have done it without you.
Awesome. So any questions you guys have, just send it to info@getmiked or to Jindra, and Jindra will take care of it and filter it out and get it to the right.
And Deb, stay on with me for a minute. I got to tell you something.
Okay, sounds good. Bye. I know I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble, guys. Don't leave.
You're in trouble now. I love you guys.
We'll do it quick because we have another
Bye,
meeting.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Take care.